Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. Lexi has a super fun topic this week that I'm going to learn a lot from because I have no idea what all goes into this. So take it away, Lexi.
Yeah, so this week I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into website design. A couple weeks ago, I talked about some different platforms on what you can use to actually build your website if you aren't a software developer, which most people are not.
Mm-hmm.
So this week I'm going to go over some tips on just like website design. So discussing key elements and pages that you really should have on your web page, some branding tips, and just general best practices to make your business a success.
Great.
So the first topic that I'll cover are some key elements that you should have on your website. So no matter how big or small or complex your website is, these are the most important key elements that every website should have. Number one being your logo. So you should have a professional looking logo in your header and footer. And when you click on it, it should take you back to your homepage. So it should be displayed all the time in the header and footer, no matter what page you're on. And it's just an easy way for people to get back to the home.
Okay.
And then number two is your navigation menu. So that should be located in your header. It can be buttons or links, and it takes you to each page on your website. If you don't have this, then people aren't going to be able to leave your homepage. So make sure that you have a navigation menu.
Gotcha.
Another key element would be brand colors. So make sure that your website colors match your company's brand colors and that you stick to just a few central colors. So you have sort of a theme. If you've noticed on Passive Aggressive Income on our Instagram and Facebook pages, we do kind of have a theme where we have some neutrals, some like really warm browns and tans, and a couple of blues in there. And that really is how we brand ourselves. We don't have our own website, but you'll see that reflected in our social media posts and our profile picture and our banner on YouTube. So make sure that your website coincides with those things. And you don't want to
Yes.
make it too crazy either. You don't want to pick like 20 colors because it's not going to look cohesive.
Right.
And then same thing with your brand fonts. You want to stick to like around two fonts, maybe three fonts, but just kind of, or if you don't have exact matching fonts as like your logo, if there's words in it, just make sure that the general like theme kind of feels the same. You will also want to put social media icons on your website. So I suggest putting these in your footer. So again, it's displayed all the time. And that those icons, when you click on them, it'll link you to your Instagram if it's an Instagram icon. It'll link you to your TikTok if it's a TikTok icon. And make sure that you double check that those are working and actually take you to
Mm,
the right place.
yeah.
And then the last key element that I want to make sure is important to mention is having some contact information. You definitely can put that in its own separate page, like an about page. You can have that be really detailed, but at least put like an email address and your hours of operation, like in the footer too, so people can just easily access that if they need to contact you about something like, hey, I want to buy your products and give you money. Make sure you make that as accessible as possible for them to do that.
For sure. I've been on multiple websites where I'm like, I don't know where to click anything. Like, I'm just so confused.
Yeah, right. You want the layout to be really intuitive too. And so that's why these key elements, you'll see these things across many different websites. So when I talk about having your contact information and the social media icons in the footer, that's because that's a really common place for them to be on all websites. The next thing I'll talk about are some key pages that you definitely want to have on your website. You can have a really big website with lots of pages and galleries and blog posts and information and just a ton of shit, but you don't need to. Your website can be more simple. It can be just a few pages, especially if you're just starting out and you just want to have something out there for people to, find you. Then these couple of pages are things that I would really suggest you have on your website. So first would be, of course, the homepage. And I want to reiterate that first impressions really matter. So keep it simple and visually pleasing, but make sure that people understand what your business is actually about. What is your objective with having this website out there? Are you selling photos? Are you selling clothes? Are you is this a place where people can read about your social media marketing services? Make sure that that's really obvious when people land on your homepage.
Right. Nobody should be confused when they're looking at what you're presenting on your website. If they leave confused, then they're not going to want to come back.
Right, exactly. And also make it so they're not confused, but you don't need to put like tons of blocks of text on your homepage. That we can save for other pages. Just keep the homepage really simple and nice looking. So then speaking of, we can go into the about page. So this is where you can get a bit more detailed with your business, what it is, who you are, why you founded your business, and you can, maybe even tell a short story about how you came to open this business and running this thing. Um, but that's optional. It doesn't need to be super detailed if you don't want it to. I would say that if you are a like one person business or you're really trying to make a personal connection with people, then it's something like a story would be really nice. Or at a minimum, like a good headshot can make
Mm.
it feel more personal. And if you have employees, and put them on there too, like a meet the team type of thing.
There was a company, a property management company, and I believe it was Milwaukee or Chicago, where they had this was really creative. Instead of having the pictures of the employees, they had pictures of the employees' pets.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was so cute. So like they had professional shots of like a chihuahua and like a little like bow tie, and it says like Reese, like office manager, and like
That's
it
so
was
cute.
the cutest thing. And I'm like, I want to steal that.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. And see, that's something that you went to that website and now you remember it because it
Oh
was
yeah.
so impactful. So
Yeah.
if you can, yeah, play around with things like that where it's not just like white background, headshot, very professional. I mean, if that's the type of business that you have and it is very like professional, maybe a little bit less personal, that's okay. But if you're doing something like a passion project, then like feel free to be creative with it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have to be very like monotone and strict. And
Right.
even I took pictures for a software consulting company, and even though that's, kind of a professional business where people dress nice and it's very like office work vibes, I went in and I took pictures and tried to make it creative where I pose people around the office, either at their office or like maybe in the like common area, and had them like doing different things. And one guy
Hmm.
was really into golf and they had like a little golf section in their office. And so I had him like holding a club, and so you can, still have a professional headshot, but it can be fun and you can
Yeah.
put that on your website.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of a tangent,
Yeah.
but but yeah. So along with just, what the business is, why you're here, the key information that you'd want to have on that page would be contact information, your hours, and things like that. The third page that I would really say is sort of the last requirement would be either a shop or services page or a gallery, just depending on whatever it is that you are selling or whatever the business is. So this is your opportunity to sell yourself and get people to sign up with you or buy your products. And so, make it look nice and have those services outlined very specifically. So again, there's no confusion, or have, the shop with all of your products. Or if you do sell things on another platform, then make sure that on your navigation menu in your header that's displayed all the time, make sure you have a link to
Mm,
the shop so people can get there really easily if you don't have
right.
your own like shop page. We'll also talk about a bonus page because although this isn't required, I would suggest having a landing page. So if you do any sort of marketing to your website where you're doing, say, like social media marketing, and people run across an ad on Facebook and they click on that link, it takes you to a landing page. And
Oh,
then
okay.
that's where people can you can like sign up for like a newsletter or sign up for something where they can submit their email address and then you can take that and do all sorts of marketing with it. But yeah, have the landing page be just really simple and have it be nice looking and then just have like a simple form where they can sign up. So
So that's different from the home page,
it
you're
is
saying.
different from the homepage. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas like the homepage is just like the general place that people will go to when they go to your website. But for specifically like targeted ads, if you have an objective, like I had a wedding media business that I had for a while. And I had but one of the ways that I would try to get clients was I created this wedding media guide where I created this like 10-page thing with like pictures and text where I talked about like how to choose your photographer and what kind of style you might be interested in for your photos or video and like what does the process actually look like when you sign up with Star Media Weddings. And so I promoted that and say like, hey, if you want to sign up, this is free. There's like no requirement to book with us, but I'll give you this guide and it could be really helpful because finding a wedding photographer or videographer is very overwhelming. And
Mm,
so I started marketing that. And then when people would click on the link, it would take them to this landing page where they could put in their email address and their name, and they would get the guide and they could download it. And then now I have their email address that I can market to them too.
smart.
So yeah, landing page is great if you plan on doing any marketing like that. But like I said, it's a bonus page if that's not something you're interested in doing. If you're just really trying to have a website out there where you keep it simple and you just want another place for people to find you, then it's not necessary. I will end off here with just some general best practices when it comes to creating and designing your website. So, this might be a little bit of a review, some of these from my episode that we posted a couple weeks ago about the website builders. But number one would just be really keeping a consistent layout from page to page. So it doesn't feel like you're on a completely new website when you go from the about page to the shop to the home page. Keep that consistent feel. And then again, keep the homepage more simple and clutter-free and use lots of visual aids. So, like videos and photos and diagrams to break up really long blocks of text because no one wants to just read a book on a computer when they're just trying to learn about what your business is or maybe buy something from your shop.
Right.
And then I will go into a little bit of SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what that means is that when people are, say, searching for something on Google, then your website is going to show up before other people's. And so
Hmm.
optimizing it is so that you're one of the first people that shows up.
Yeah, I've always been curious on how that all works.
It's kind of a complicated process and it is initially quite expensive and you don't see the payoff for several months. So
Okay.
it's definitely something if you are a larger business and you want to really invest a lot of time and money and resources into having someone do this for you, just know that like it's going to take some time and it might be initially expensive, but eventually it'll pay off if they do it right. But because I feel like most of the people on this podcast that listen to this podcast are not big, huge companies that are like, I'm going to hire someone to do this. I'm just going to
Right.
talk about some tips on how you can try and optimize your website for SEO. So the first being is using keywords that describe your website throughout the text of your website. So you can sprinkle in things like social media marketing, Twin Cities. So think about like what you might search in Google if you're living in the Twin Cities and you're
Oh,
looking for a social media marketer. That's a keyword, and you can
okay.
put that in your website. Or like wedding photographers, Appleton, Wisconsin. put that in your website and sprinkle it in organically. You don't want your web content to just be like keyword after keyword because like that's super cringy and no one wants to
Yeah.
read that. But yeah, just think about those things and try and put that into like organically, put that into your about page, into your blog posts, into your homepage, whatever the case may be.
Wow, I didn't even realize that that helped bring traffic to your
Mhm.
page. That's really cool.
Yeah, it just makes it a lot more searchable. And then another thing would be trying to have other websites linked to your own website. So this might be easier said than done unless you like have multiple different websites or you know someone who also has a business that can somehow be related to yours. But for an example, for me, I had a social media marketing website, a wedding media website, and a photography website. And all of those things have slight crossover with photography and videography. So I would say like, hey, check out my other projects, and I would have those links.
Hmm.
What that tells Google when it does a search or a scan of your website, it's called a crawl. So when Google does a crawl of your website, then it'll say like, wow, this website must be good because other websites are linking to it. And they're
Oh,
saying like this is good enough that like you should they're sort of promoting it for you.
okay.
And
Okay.
so Google will do a crawl every so often. And it kind of depends. I would say at least like on a monthly basis, they'll check and reevaluate where they should put you on the search. Um, so other ways that you can optimize your website for SEO would be using meta descriptions on media. So you might notice if you like hover over a photo or if you like download it, what the photo is titled instead of just like this is the name straight out of the camera dot JPEG. You can put like something relevant like um let's see, bride, like Twin Cities bride or something like that. And
Right.
that's a bit more relevant. Or if you like hover over the photo and it gives you a little description on what the photo is, that's not only an accessibility thing where people who may have bad vision or like not be able to understand what they're looking at in a photo, they can read the description.
Hmm.
Or if they're having your website read out loud through some sort of e-reader, it'll read the description. So they're not missing out on anything. So
Got
not
it.
only an accessibility thing, but also helps with SEO. And so, yeah, I know this is a lot, so bear with me. Just a
Yeah.
couple
No.
more tips with
Yeah.
SEO. So, in the same way that I said, like use a descriptive name for a photo that you upload, do the same thing with your URLs for each page. So, say you have a blog and you just posted a new blog, and you can have websitename.com/blog slash name dash of dash blog. So, for example, passive dash aggressive dash income. And so that's saying like exactly what it is you can expect from that website or from that page. And then my last tip with SEO would be just to publish new content on your website often. So, like I said, Google will do this crawl on your website on, like, say, a monthly basis. Make sure that when that does happen, you have something new to offer. This isn't just a website that has been collecting dust and there's no changes made and maybe it's outdated. If you post like a new blog post every month, and that's a way to say, like, we're still in business here. We still want people to visit this website, and we're dedicated to posting new content with keywords and all sorts of good stuff that we talked about. So yeah, those are just some tips that you can do personally to make your website more optimized and hopefully get some more visitors.
Well, great job. I feel like every time that you bring a topic to the table here, I'm always learning. So thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't, know any of this if it weren't for you. So I'm sure our listeners are going to be really grateful that you are explaining all of this to the people that just don't understand.
Yeah, and it's totally understandable that like this can be really overwhelming and not everybody knows how to go about this. So with the experience that I've had running a few businesses and having to create websites both for myself and for my clients, these are some things that I've learned. And if this is still sounding extremely overwhelming to you, I would say like consider hiring someone to like write content for you or create the website for you. Especially if you're not a good writer or you tend to make a lot of spelling and grammar mistakes or just are not actually going to be consistent with making updates, I
Right.
would really suggest hiring some portions of those things out. I've used Fiverr, Fiverr, for web copy and also for creating my logos. And I've had a
Oh.
lot of luck. Um, because sometimes creating a new website can just be really overwhelming. And while I really enjoy writing, there are people who are better at it than me. And when you are doing something like creating a website that's going to represent your brand and your business, you really want it to look and sound good.
Mm-hmm.
So, my only tip with that, if you are hiring it out on Fiverr, there's people all across the world who can do these types of things, which is amazing. But for web copy specifically, I would suggest you hire someone who is a native English speaker if your
Mm.
website is going to be in English, just to avoid some like weird.
Translation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
And for those who don't know, what is Fiverr?
So Fiverr so think of like Uber. You can hire a driver who's going to take you from place A to place B, and then you might not see them again. It's not like they're hired by Fiverr to do that. Like they signed up or like they signed up to be an Uber driver. So Fiverr is kind of the same way where
Oh,
you
like a freelance.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so people can post their services on there, whether it be like creating a logo or writing web copy or like, I don't know, even like looking over your resume or whatever it is. There are people
Oh,
who are just like posting their services on there, and you can go through some examples of their work and see like, does this fit my brand? Is this like something that I feel like they could make that would work for me? And then
mm-hmm.
they'll typically have like a couple of packages listed, and usually those packages will have a few tiers with like you'll get one um like revision on whatever they deliver or two revisions or whatever, and they post how much those services cost because they're the ones doing it and they kind of have control. So yeah, it's like a freelance place where people can post their services and you can hire them to do just like one-off projects or
Cool.
continue going back every month for a new blog post because I did that for a while.
Nice. Okay.
That's just a bit about website design and some things that I think are really important to have as far as specific elements you should have on your website or important pages that you should not forget about adding to your website, and just a couple of tips along the way as far as design and SEO and all of that good stuff. Hopefully that wasn't too technical for our listeners. It's hard trying to explain some of these like really abstract concepts like SEO,
Right.
but it is important to talk about because the more people that you get on your website, then the more hopefully they're going to be paying you for your services or your products.
Yeah, no, I think that you really made it easy to understand, especially for somebody that doesn't really, know much about it. So yeah, you did a great job.
Thanks.
So thank you again for presenting this topic. You guys make sure to listen to next week's episode as well. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then follow us on Spotify and then give us a rating on there too.
Yeah, we really appreciate any ratings that helps push our content out there and get other people listening. So thank you as always for the support, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.